Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. Today's block is called Celebrity, 12-inch finished. Here's the diagram. This is a 4x4 grid, and we cut this in half kind of in the middle here. We have the corner units that finished at 3 inches, and we have the inside unit. This one finishes at 6 inches. And all the little small spaces in here, the squares, all finish at 1.5 inches. And this height here of this flying geese unit is 3 inches. So this is a 3x6 inch flying geese unit. So we have the flying geese on the outside, we have some little flying geese on the inside, and we have a lot of half square triangles and plain squares. Here's what the block looks like, block to block. Here are the cutting diagrams, and we have patches A through E, and I will explain them to you so you can see where they go. First, patch A is a 1.5 inch finished square, and we cut 2-inch squares. We have some background squares and some blue squares. The background squares are in these corner units. That's the A patch here and the A patch here, so the background in the blue, and the 4 corner units. And then we have A background squares in this little section in the middle, this unit in the middle that finishes at 6 inches. Patch B is a 1.5 inch finished half square triangle. We cut 2 3/8 inch squares and cut them in half once on the diagonal for 2 patches. These will be used to make the half square triangles and also part of the flying geese unit. So let's look and see where those are. Okay, the half square triangles are in the corner units, and they're also right in the center of this center unit, the red and the background, and these are the black and the background. And the rest of these patches are used for the flying geese units here, these 4 small flying geese units. Patch C is a 6 inch finished quarter square triangle. We cut 7 1/4 inch squares and cut them in half on the diagonal twice for 4 patches. This makes the large flying geese that go along the outside. Patch D is a 3 inch finished half square triangle. We cut 3 7/8 inch squares and cut them in half once on the diagonal for 8 patches. These make the sky portion of the flying geese units on the outside. These are the large flying geese units. And E is a quarter square triangle 3 inch finished. We cut 4 1/4 inch squares, cut them in half twice on the diagonal for 4 patches. And we'll need 4 patches for the background. This is for the small flying geese units in the center. There's around this that make up this star in the center. These are the squares that go in the outside corners and in the inside star, so they stay squares. This is the large flying geese unit that finishes at 3x6 inches. This is the geese portion, and this is the sky portion. We will use flying geese 4 at a time to make this. And we have the same thing with this, only it's a smaller flying geese unit. We have the geese part of the flying geese, and we have the sky part of the flying geese. And these squares here are for the half square triangles. We're going to make them 2 at a time. Let's start with the half square triangles 2 at a time. So we'll make 8 half square triangles with this set and 2 half square triangles with this set. And all of the light squares, I've marked a diagonal line. We'll put a light and a dark square right sides together. Then we'll stitch on both sides of this diagonal line and stitch a scant 1/4 inch, which means slightly smaller than 1/4 inch. For my guide on my presser foot, 1/4 inch would be right along this line. But for a scant 1/4 inch, the guide right up to the right side of this line. So do this for all of your half square triangle squares. Cut this in half on the drawn line. Then you have your 2 half square triangles. Now we're going to press the seams and then trim. Here are the seams pressed. I pressed open. Now we're going to trim this to 2 inches. Take my 6.5 inch ruler I'm placing the diagonal line on the ruler along the seam line, and I'm looking on all the sides to see if there's enough to trim off, enough fabric. So there's enough here and here. Here's the 2-inch mark, there's plenty, and the 2-inch mark here, there's plenty. So we'll cut these 2 sides, flip this around, put your ruler back on, and you can use your 2-inch mark here and here and your diagonal line. Just fix that. Now trim these 2 corners. And do that for all of your half square triangles. Next we have step 2, and we're going to use some of the half square triangles and the A patches and make these 2 different units. This one is the inside of the star, so we make 1 of those, and these are the corner units, and we're going to make 4 of these. So just follow the diagram to lay your blocks out. Here is the 1, and we have 2 of these. So you stitch these together and these 2, and then stitch the rows together, and you make 1 of these. Then this is the corner unit. Stitch these together the same way, and we're going to make 4 of these. When you finish these units, you will have 4 of the small squares left, and that's for the inside star. Next, we'll go to our flying geese units, and we're going to do both of these the same way. We'll take 2 of the squares, and we've marked diagonal lines on the back, and we place them on the large square like this. So we're lining up these edges here and here and line up the diagonal lines. We're going to stitch a scant 1/4 inch on each side, the same way we did with our half square triangles. A scant 1/4 inch on both sides of this line, and do that for both of the flying geese units. And we're going to cut this in half on the drawn line, and we'll open these up and press these seams open. Here's what they look like on the large one, pressed open. Now we'll take our other 2 squares, lay 1 on this piece like this, match the tops, and we're going to stitch on both sides of this line just like we did the others. And do the same thing with the second one, and do the same thing with these. We have all of our flying geese so far. We're going to cut all of them in half like this on the line. Then open them up and press the seams, and you'll have your flying geese unit. And next we'll trim these down. The large one we'll do first. We need to trim that 6.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And for both of these, since we cut the geese portion the exact size we needed, the width should be the exact size. So this should be 6.5 and this should be 3.5. So let's do the 6.5 first. I'm going to use this larger ruler since this is so large. And we measure here and we can see that the 6.5, it's right. Now we're going to move the 3.5 mark down here at the bottom and keep our 6.5 mark in place. Then if we check up here, the 1/4 inch line should be just above the point of the flying geese. So now we know we can trim. We're going to trim this little nub off here and then trim across here. And now just trim the rest of the nubs off. And do that to all of your large flying geese. So now for the small one, we're going to trim this down to 3.5 inches by 2 inches. So let's put this on here and measure. And the 3.5 inches is good this way. Now we need 2 inches this way. So I'll first put it on the bottom and then check the 1/4 inch mark at the top. I'm going to move it up just a little bit so I won't cut off that point. And I'll have to trim some down here. So the point is fine, the 1/4 inch is above that. I have my 3.5 inches, so now I'm going to cut this side and this side. And let's turn this around. Now put our 3.5 there and our 2 inch on the bottom now. And then we can trim off this. And do all of your small ones like that, 3.5 inches by 2 inches. Now we're going to take the little center unit you pieced, the flying geese, and the rest of the squares. And we're going to make the center unit in the star. So just look at the diagram and lay the pieces out. And here's the center. So you piece these together, the center together and the bottom, press the seams, and then stitch all the rows together. Now we have all of our units are done. So we're just going to put them together on the proppet board. Now we stitch the top units together, the middle and the bottom, press the seams, and then stitch the rows together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.